What's going on, traders? Welcome back to day 4 of the 25 Days of Trading series. Appreciate you tuning in. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the future videos. Every morning at 11 a.m., I'll be releasing the next day's video, so make sure you keep on tuning in. I really appreciate it. But in today's video, I want to talk to you about how I lost 350,000 in funding, 3 XFAs, 2 150Ks, and a single 50K XFA. That, as you can guess, it was probably just breaking some rules, going outside my plan, not trading my best setups, as we all fall into, right? We could all live with if we just catch a weak stretch of trading where we just take loss after loss, but we're following our rules, we're doing the best we can, nothing's really wrong with our trading. We just hit a bit of a cold streak. But most of the time, it's up to us, and it was our doing, shooting ourselves in the foot, that we probably took that many losses of that big of size. That's also another thing I didn't mention. I probably sized too heavy on some of these losses after taking a certain amount of them. You get a little revengeful, a little angry, a little frustrated. Let me try to make it back in one bigger swing. And as you know, as you probably experienced, doesn't really work out that way. But we move on. I've since recovered it, and now I have a bunch of 50K XFAs all stacked up together, taking payouts on those. And the one thing I should mention, before losing them, I did take payouts on them. So at the end of the day, I guess it's not the end of the world that I did make my money back on what I put into them. And I can't expect to hold on to these XFAs forever. They're probably going to have to lose them, rinse, repeat, get them back, invest some more in order to get more payouts. And that's exactly what I did. So I just want to clear some things up and show you what I maybe could have done to avoid losing them, how I did, but then moving forward, what setups I really should be focusing on to keep them a little bit longer. But let's hop right into it. So you can see in the charts here, the first setup, if we look at TradeZella, we don't need that. This is the first trade with the 15-minute opening range. Yesterday's video, I explained the 15-minute opening range as well as the initial balance. That it's a key level I want to trade off of. And in this one, we're inside the range still, trapped inside, very, very choppy since the open. We're being pinched between a bunch of VWAPs here of all-time high. Yesterday's New York, we're underneath high a day. The New York VWAP is flat. Just not a lot of trend going on that I'm trying to call the trend, that I do think it wants to be more bullish than bearish. But at the end of the day, we were stuck in a range, and I don't trade those days as well as I do trending days, and I know that. So I took one swing at it as we are breaking the high day VWAP and retested the New York, so that's good according to my plan and my strategy, but we're still stuck in the range. There's no clear buyers in control. Buyers haven't been able to crack this 57.86 price. But take the loss, stops me out. Maybe the stop loss was a bit of an issue too, not covering all of the low of day. You see it just pins me out. And then what happens after? Oh man, it just pins me out the open range low. Holds yesterday's New York, holds all-time high. All right, I was just early. We're breaking the high day up again, so let me buy it back again. But same thing, we're stuck in a range. We haven't made a new higher high yet, telling me that buyers are in control and we are having a nice bullish day. So it's still just range bound, trapped at these levels. And I'm pretty much buying it almost, you can see lower highs on top, although it still is flat on the bottom. Nice support. We're still falling on top of lower highs since we rejected the high day view up last time. So I get some profit out of it. Now I have a stop at the true low of day to clear all my levels, but it chops around this open range high, the top of our range, where we've been stuck in. So I don't take profits because I'm wanting it to pop higher. But okay, this is the time we get out of the range, right? I'm predicting and hoping we get out of the range rather than reacting to, hey, buyers are struggling cracking this higher. We're really kind of range bound here. Maybe I should just take some profits here. And if we do break, then I'll reassess. I'll look for a pullback, and then I'll find trending longs after, rather than, like I said, forecasting and hoping that trend comes in. Let me just react to the trend coming in. And if it never does, all right, I'll sit on my hands. I'll go 0 for 1 on the day, no problem. Now, this is a different day. Pretty similar just in terms of the open isn't super, super clean. We actually broke to the bottom. And now the top, and this one's just bad because I'm chasing price a little bit. At the time, it's pretty much the highest price of the day. In yesterday's video, I said I don't chase the first break outside that open range high. I normally like to see it pull back inside. But in this case, I ignored myself and I bought the first break, also having the all-time high view up right above me as potential resistance. And it does turn into resistance as we create a lower high there. So it pulls back, but we're breaking the high day view up now. Similar, it looks just like yesterday's trade, right? Pull back to New York, break a high day, but stops me out. So the other one we want to look at is it eventually does work out. It does pop higher later on, but again, I added back in on the break of high day, saying, okay, this is the time it retests it. Now buyers are getting outside this level. We're ready to move higher, but it stops me out first. with this stop loss kind of just floating in the middle of the opening range. Yes, it's at this previous structure back here. I do like that. So maybe it's a little bit of an unfortunate stop out, but at the end of the day, the price action isn't super clean either. That this is where it wants to build the higher low from previous back here. But it's just a tough stop out. And now I'm 0 for 2 on the day. I can't even capitalize on the move that happens over here where the trend is now separating. We are making new highs. I have to watch from the sidelines because I'm 0 for 2. I can't swing anymore. I'm out of risk on the day. I can't oversize. So now by taking a stupid trade setup to start the day of chasing this first move out and then having to get back in on maybe a valid setup, but now I'm 0 for 2. I can't recover it because I've put on too much risk. I hit my max daily loss. So just avoiding that first one maybe could have kept me in the game to take this second one, and then maybe I would have had a break even day, or maybe a slightly green. This one, ay ay ay, clearly range bound. Maybe you could argue at the time of taking this first one, it wasn't super ranging yet. That we've seen this double break happen of the break at the bottom. Let's go get the top. But it turns into a super, super, super range bound day where it keeps me alive, but it doesn't go for a new high, but it's not making new lows. So I got to stay in this. We're still holding above this New York and just sitting sideways. But then what happens? It cracks lower actually, but it holds yesterday's New York and bounces, breaks back above New York. Okay, now buyers are in for sure. But realistically, if you look at it for what it is, if I just cleaned up the charts, we're still making lower highs and lower lows on top. Specifically on the bottom, we actually finally did make a new lower low. So if I just go back to the earlier markup, at this point we're ranging. There's no new higher high being made, but there's also new lower low. So it's kind of just sitting sideways. Now with this push lower, all right, there's our lower low. So we are in fact moving lower with lower highs on top, lower lows on the bottom. The trend is slightly bearish, although still choppy. So rather than treating this like a potential lower high, looking for more shorts down, I'm trying to fight the structure and go long now, sticking to that first bias I had, and then it bites me. So I think just getting outside my plan of where's the trend, where's the clean structure that I can try to capitalize on, that's where I perform best. But when I chase moves like this or try to force moves, I'd say it is of the move isn't super clear yet, but I'm trying to force it to come in and paint how I want it to, rather than waiting for it to paint how I want. Structure looks how I want. The trend is there. Stocks are moving higher. Everything's pointing towards longs. Now just buy it, Evan, rather than I think this wants to move higher just because I'm long bias. This is gonna flip now. Well, what is it actually telling me? It's telling me lower highs and lower lows. I think just getting outside of my plan is the biggest reason that I lost those funded accounts, and that's the most obvious reason why many of us probably do of just taking setups we know better than to take. We know don't win more times than not, but it's also even just a lesson of well, I'm gonna sometimes take trades outside my plans. That's just all of us. We're all human. But how many times do you do it? And the damage of what size did you have on when you do it? And even the third thing would be, well, I could take this loss outside my plan. I could take it on the chin, limit the damage, but then how many times does it bleed into taking a second one that also loses, right? So there's many variables to it of you're going to take bad trades, but how often, of what size, and then once you do take that first one, do you let it bleed into a second bad one, a third bad one? Do you keep forcing it and marrying ideas that aren't there? Because that's when the snowball effect comes in. It can get really ugly really quickly, right? So I had some pretty bigger days on that monthly P&L because when I did have a red day, or I did have a bad day like this of forcing a bad trade, well, shit, I want to get that back. I know better. Why did I take that trade? Let me take something better. But you're off today. You're not on your game. You're taking setups that aren't really there just because you're trying to make the money back. So lesson learned. It's going to happen again, most likely to someone in the chat, someone watching this, and that's fine. It's how do you react to it? I've since gotten back all the XFAs. Thankfully, I only lost 3 at this time because that's what I had. Now I have 5 again. I went with the smaller size ones because I don't need the whole $4,500 worth of drawdown. Now I go with the 50Ks, which give me 2K worth of drawdown. But I find it easier to take payouts on because I'm really just looking for 2, 3, 4K, take out 2 grand, build it back up to 4K, take out 2 grand, but you're copying it to 5 accounts now, so that 2 grand is really 10K. So I think it was maybe what needed to happen to remind myself what trade setups work best for me, why I shouldn't go outside my plan and use my discretion too hard of abandoning all the structure and abandoning all the rules that I apply to myself of just saying no. Just use your discretion, eyeball it. You could find a winning trade. I could sometimes, but repeatedly and consistently, and what's going to probably happen more times than not, that's a different story. But make sure you tune in for tomorrow's video, day 5. Hopefully you found some value in this one. And like I said, if you have blown an account, or you end up do blowing one, it's not the end of the world. Just reassess, go back into those trades. What did I do wrong? I can now clearly see, well, yeah, no wonder I lost so many trades and I lost the accounts because these trades aren't good. They aren't up to par with the trades I want to take and the ones you see me take the most. So at the end of the day, I can't be too surprised by the outcomes because, yeah, these aren't my best trades. So now I just have to ask myself, why did I take them? How can I not take them in the future? How can I limit the damage if I ever do fall into a day like this again? And then hopefully the damage will be minimal next time, or there is no next time. But make sure you tune in tomorrow, 11 a.m. We'll have tomorrow's video up and running. And let's keep going with this series. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure you subscribe. Come back tomorrow. I'll see you guys on the charts tomorrow morning.